Welcome to another explainer on Fiqh for Economists. Today we're diving into Hawalah, a financial tool that's been around for centuries but is, you'll see, incredibly relevant for our modern world. It's really all about a smarter, much more efficient way to handle debt. So let me ask you this. Imagine you owe your friend, say, $100. But at the same time, another friend owes you that same $100. It just feels like there should be a simple way to connect the dots and get everyone settled, right? Well, there is, and it has a name. Here's what we're going to cover today. We'll start by defining this smarter way to pay. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the rules of the transfer. After that, we'll see how Hawalah stacks up against other contracts, look at how it's used in the real world, and finally, we'll have a little quiz to test what you've learned. So let's get into it. All right, so that elegant solution to our little puzzle, that's Hawalah. And I like to think of it as a kind of financial three-way handshake that just cuts through a tangled mess of who owes who. The word Hawalah itself literally means transfer. And in the world of finance, that's exactly what it is. It's a contract that moves a debt from the person who originally owes it to a third party. That third party now has to pay it. And this is the really important part. The original debtor is completely freed from that obligation. Let's look at this visually to make it super clear. So B owes money to A, but C owes that exact same amount to B. With a Hawalah contract, B just transfers the whole thing over to C. So now C pays A directly. B is totally out of the picture, and both debts get settled with one clean move. It's just efficient. And you know, this isn't some brand new financial trick. The whole idea is deeply rooted in Islamic tradition, as you can see from this hadith. It basically says, hey, if your debt is moved to someone who is reliable and can actually pay, you should accept it. This really shows that its whole purpose is to make things easier and build financial trust. Okay, but for a system like this to work fairly, it can't just be some casual, informal thing. Like any real contract, Hawalah has its own set of rules, specific pillars and conditions. Let's break those down. Every Hawalah contract is built on 5 key pillars. First, you've got the 3 parties. The original debtor, who's called the muhil, the creditor, the muhal, and the new person taking on the debt, the muhal alayh. Then, of course, you need the debt itself, the dain. And finally, you need a clear offer and acceptance to make it all official. That's the siyaha. Now, for a Hawalah to be legit, there are some non-negotiable conditions. For one, everybody involved has to agree to it. It also has to be for a debt. You can't transfer a physical thing like a car this way. The 2 debts in question have to be identical, same amount, same type. But this next one, this is absolutely critical. For it to be a true Hawalah, the transferee must already owe money to the original debtor. That's the link that makes the whole thing work. And that condition actually leads us to the 2 main types. The standard one, the one everyone agrees on, is called restricted Hawalah. That's where the transfer is tied directly to that pre-existing debt we just talked about. There's another type, absolute, where there isn't a pre-existing debt, but most scholars say, that's not really a Hawalah, that's more like a guarantee. You know, one of the best ways to really understand what something is to understand what it isn't. So let's put Hawalah side by side with a couple of other financial ideas to see what makes it so unique. Okay, first up, Hawalah versus Kafalah, which is basically a guarantee. The difference is huge. With Hawalah, the original debtor is completely off the hook. The debt has been transferred. With a guarantee, the original debtor is still liable. The guarantor is just a backup. This means with Hawalah, the creditor can only go after the new debtor. With Kafalah, they can go after either. Now let's compare it to the sale of debt, or bay el-dain. This is another really important distinction. A Hawalah is a transfer at par value. A $100 debt gets transferred as a $100 debt. Simple. But bay el-dain often means selling a debt at a discount, which is a pretty controversial practice in Islamic finance. And notice who kicks things off. In Hawalah, it's the debtor. In a debt sale, it's the creditor. So, we've established this is an old concept. But how does a principle from centuries ago actually work in today's fast-paced digital financial world? Well, let's take a look. The answer is it's everywhere. You see it in big-time finance, where it's used to settle deals between banks, or even to structure government bonds, which you might know as sukuk. But it's also powering the future. Modern fintech companies are using the exact same principle on blockchain platforms to make peer-to-peer lending safe and secure. It's just an incredibly versatile tool. All right, that was a whirlwind tour of Hawalah. Now it's your turn. Let's see if you've got the main ideas down. I've got 3 quick questions for you. Question number 1. What is the primary purpose of a Hawalah contract? Is it A, to provide a guarantee, B, to sell something at a discount, C, to transfer a debt, or D, to start a crowdfunding campaign? Okay, question 2. Think back to that comparison we did. How is Hawalah different from Kafalah? A, one is voluntary and one is mandatory. B, Hawalah releases the original debtor but Kafalah doesn't. C, one is her physical things and one isn't. Or D, they require a different number of people. And for our last question, when a debt gets moved in a Hawalah contract, what happens to its value? Is it A, transferred at its original par value, B, sold for a discount, C, the creditor gets to decide the value, or D, its value can be put off until later? So, how do you think you did? Go ahead and drop your answers in the comments below. Something like 1C, 2B, 3A. We'd love to see what you got. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you on the next one.